And I am delighted to start our fireside with Senator Cortez Masto from Nevada. Please welcome her with a round of applause. Senator Cortez Masto is the senior senator from the state of Nevada since 2017. She's the ranking member for the Subcommittee on Public Lands, Forests, and Mining on the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Senator Cortez Masto sits on the Senate Finance Committee, where she has oversight over tax and trade policy, Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee, and the Indian Affairs Committee. She previously served as the Attorney General of Nevada. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation. And thank you for all the good work, by the way. I love what the Senator's doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's been a busy year. I think we can both appreciate that we're all due for a good Christmas break.
I think you're right.
So I want to get started. I mean, why is it so important for policymakers to be focused on strengthening U.S. critical minerals security?
Particularly at the federal level, because I think we have to set the path forward. I think it is so crucial, and particularly, let me just say, at a federal level as well, as the government that should be a part of this public-private partnership, but blazing the trail of where we want to go in the 21st century in this space, and get out of the idea that we just think like 2 years ahead. Every cycle is a budget cycle. That's all we think about. We've got to be thinking long-term. And this is a great area for us in the United States to set the tone, to set the parameters, guardrails, the paths to say this is where we want to go as a country, economically, for our national security, for so many reasons, but we've got to be a part of that conversation. I think it's key.
So what's happening in Nevada? I mean, Nevada is extremely mineral rich. There's a lot of activity happening. It's really a hub and an epicenter of progress domestically. And we sometimes get bogged down into things that don't work, the permitting, the slow movement of capital, the long project development. But what is happening?
Yeah, let me just say, before we leave today, if we don't get to talk about it, permitting, streamlining permitting, still fighting for that. Hopefully that gets done. Not going to let it get off the table. So know that, and we can come back to that and talk about it. And this is one of the reasons why. Nevada is what, if you all know, anybody here from Nevada? I'm curious. Do we have anybody from Nevada, any of our industry out there? So Nevada is a mining state. That's how we grew up. Remember the Comstock lode, silver, gold. We are a mining state, and we have not stopped. We've slowed down a little bit. We have new technology that can take us in a direction that also helps us be responsible landlords of the public grounds, right, of land, and remediate it. But we need to continue down the path of mining, particularly around critical minerals and rare earth minerals. I mean, it's common sense. We see what's happening around the world right now. Nevada is a great place that's primed for it. Most people don't realize in Nevada, over 80% of the land is owned by the federal government. So that is our partner. That's who we have to partner with when we are looking at how do we use this land, if there's going to be mining on that land, or is it more conservation, or is it for economic development, or is it for population growth, whatever you need. And so there's always this partnership. But in general, based on the geology of Nevada, it's great for mining. It's great for mining. And it's created incredible jobs. It's grown our economy. And we have now, and people know this, the opportunity with the new technology to mine in a responsible way. Now, the challenge we have, we've got almost 20 minerals that we're mining. Some of it is lithium. We have one of the first lithium mines in the country. We have a second one that's going up at Thacker Pass. And I think you're going to be talking to somebody, MP Materials, if you haven't already, that's just over the border in California with rare earth. But there's so much more potential there when it comes to mining. My goal is we want to do that, and we want to continue to expand where we can in the United States and with our allies. But we also need to bring processing back. That's my other focus in Nevada, is how do we used to process the minerals that we mined. We need to bring that back to the United States. We can do some of that in Nevada, and that's what we're looking at, particularly with lithium mining.
So I want to come back to something you mentioned about permitting. How do we accelerate these timelines? It is the critical bottleneck for projects in the U.S. The average time it takes to develop a project here in the U.S. is almost 50% higher than the rest of the world. What are we? Oh,
it's ridiculous. So I sit on energy and natural resources. Last year we had this very a conversation about mining, and I think for people some of my colleagues who are not familiar with mining, and I'm going to give him credit for it, though he stole my idea, was Senator Barrasso. We were having this idea about mining, and I said, I want to bring in the room charts to show how long it takes just to get a permit. And he literally brought, because my Nevada Mining Association has this chart. You walk into their office and they show you how long it takes just to get a mine. It's absolutely ridiculous. Years. And so he brought that into Energy and Natural Resources to give my colleagues who aren't familiar with mining an understanding of how long it takes and why it is so devastating to these projects to take that long. Because of that, because of the hearings we had in Energy and Natural Resources, we actually passed out of committee permitting reform legislation to streamline it, to streamline those time frames, understanding that this is where we need to go with this critical mineral mining, rare earth mining, a lot of the stuff that we need for our technology of the future, and we need to focus on streamlining the permitting for those projects. So we passed the legislation. Unfortunately, it didn't make it out of Congress and over to the president's desk. My hope is this Congress, we continue down that path. We've already done it once out of Energy and Natural Resources on the Senate side, and we bring it back. We're already having those conversations right now. I know some of my Republican colleagues are just as interested as I am in getting this done.
We had our opening fireside this morning with Jared Agan, the executive director of the National Energy Dominance Council, and he very much echoed the importance of permitting reforms and judicial review. So are you optimistic that we'll get it done by November?
Of next year, or November, yeah. I'm optimistic. I'm never going to put a time frame on something because otherwise I'm from Vegas, I'll lose. But I will tell you this, I am optimistic that there is really an effort, and we all realize we have to do something. And we have a great product that we all can start from last Congress. And so if there's the appetite, which I see on both sides of the aisle and in the White House as well, I think we can move it forward.
And it's interesting is also our financing colleagues have said, how much more investable is a project if you know it's not going to take 25, 30, 35 years to get across the line? Well,
and I think that's what people forget. It's not just getting the project done, not getting through the environmental reviews, getting the financing together. If you don't have a timeline, you're going to lose some of your investors. You're going to lose that investment moving forward. And we are going to lose out on these projects here in the United States, and they're going to go somewhere else. I'd rather them be here. And that's why a lot of the work I did on the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure was to actually make the federal government a partner. We should be a partner, public-private partner, and back some of these mining companies and the new technology and the projects that are happening. We should be involved. Look what China's doing. So, and part of this was, we've got to be able to compete with China. Otherwise, we are going to lose out when it comes to bringing mining here and expanding our mining and processing. And by the way, we need to find those countries who are allies of ours that we can continue down this path. I will get into that, but that's part of the legislation that I introduced with Bill Haggerty. I think you're going to be talking to him as well, that we have introduced together.
I actually want to come back to that legislation now. So you've passed you've been behind some of the most bipartisan minerals legislation that has been introduced. You have the Restoring American Mineral Security Act with Senator Haggerty. You have the Rare Earth Magnet Security Act with Senators Mullen and Graham. How do these pieces of legislation position the United States to better compete globally?
Oh my God, we would, not only would we better compete, we would lead. And this is driven by, for my purposes, this is driven by my conversations with my companies in Nevada. But also, I've had the ability to travel on some of these codels. I've been to Africa, right? Last year I was in Africa. I was in Malawi and Zambia and Botswana, Angola, and we had these conversations about their critical minerals, what opportunities, if we have allies, that we can partner not only on the mining of these critical minerals, the processing of these minerals, and the technology that it's going to bring us. As you well know, it's for our economic development, it creates jobs and our national security. I don't have to tell all of you, China's cornered the market. Right? They manipulate the market because they've cornered it with critical minerals and rare earths. They manipulate the market and they manipulate the price. oversupply, you name it. We've seen it for the last 20 years. The only way we're going to get out from underneath that is to start doing some of that mining and processing here. We can't do all of it. And finding our allies who are willing to partner with us to do the same thing, thus the legislation. The legislation that Bill and I put together was to create sort of this kind of mining security alliance, which was if you're a foreign country and you want to work with the United States on mining, right, and processing, and actually also focus on some derivative products like batteries and magnets, then you can partner with us and we will zero out the tariffs, but you got to work with us on increasing the prices against China and those foreign countries that are not going to be working with us. The idea is to build out those allies. At the same time, with some of the mining and the money that comes into that, we put it into a trust fund. And that trust fund goes back into this whole process of mining and processing and moving forward. And we work with Department of Energy, Department of Defense, and the Development Finance Corporation to continue this path, to continue to grow our opportunities, not only here in the United States, but with our allies. That's the intent. And part of that is also making sure Congress is in the role. So there's the legislation pulls Congress into this conversation with the trade representative, but it goes back to the very first conversation we had. It sets a structure that the United States says, this is important for us. This is the future we want to go. And we're going to now go down this path with our partners, public-private partnership, with foreign countries, with those who want to be part with us. Because if we don't lead and have a vision for that and what it looks like, we are going to be left behind. Now, I was just having a conversation with one of my staffers who are they're brilliant on this subject. And he's right. Right now, the United States is stumbling in that direction. They're stumbling. So we need to put structure around it so everybody knows what are the rules of the road here, where we're going, and we can start building it out. That's the intent of this legislation, and that's why, for me, just fighting for it and trying to have hearings and talking about how Bill and I can get hearings on it on the Senate side. It was just introduced on the House side as well, but we need to have more conversation in this space.
This is a big deal. Now, how do we then better align with the executive? The executive and Congress, we all want to go in the same direction. We recognize the same problem. In fact, minerals are one of the only real bipartisan issues that exist in this town at present. How do we better align our efforts?
Well, here's my suggestion. We continue to work with those in the administration that see what we're trying to do here and build out those relationships and make sure they understand that just one branch of government moving forward is not going to be as successful as if you had both the executive and Congress. That's what you want, right? Because I don't know about all of you, but when you travel abroad, it's not just the executive branch that people are paying attention to, and rightfully so they should, but they pay attention to Congress. We set the tone. We pass the legislation. We appropriate the funds that are going to go towards some of these loans for these projects. So it is important that you have both pieces, both the executive branch and congressional. And the only way I know how to do it right now in this environment is to find those individuals within the administration who understand that as well and willing to work across the aisle to get it done.
And I think it's also really important to create politically durable solutions. Mining has long been the victim of political football. It starts, it stops, it starts, it stops. So it adds that layer that I think industry really needs to feel confident in the longevity of our efforts. I want to turn back. You mentioned you were in Africa last year, and there's been a conversation about the African Growth and Opportunities Act, AGOA. How do we see ourselves using these tools to advance our efforts in a continent that we have historically not played, like as you kind of said, we kind of stumbled around in a way that is coherent, in a way that is mutually beneficial in deriving economic development opportunities?
Yeah, and I will tell you, I don't have to tell you all of you, and it is a challenging time. And this is a conversation that I have had with our ambassador for trade. When we, as a country, let me take AGOA or even USMCA. And we have negotiated this, and we've set parameters around it, and we work within the confines of that structure. That brings that stability and certainty for folks and industry and others and other countries. That's what we need to do. But when that structure is not there, the stability is lost, and then you have what you have now, the administration making decisions, going out and entering into an agreements that most of us, I haven't seen the fine print on, I don't know. That's chaotic, there's no stability there, and that is a challenge. So my conversation with the folks in the administration is we need to bring that certainty and stability. We need that structure, not only for industry, but for our allies, our partners, other countries. And we have to work within those confines. It is a challenging time, we all know that, but there are some of us that are still willing to do that. And I think we have to show that and continue talking about it, the importance of it.
I want to come back home now. What would you say to environmentalists who are just not interested in minerals being mined in our backyard? Because that's one of the challenges we have too.
Yeah, I said it to them. So let me just say this, I've said it very clear. You cannot have solar. You cannot have the electric vehicles and the batteries and the recycling that you want unless we extract the minerals here. So if you want to move in that direction of clean energy and opportunities technology is going to bring us to reduce our carbon footprint, it does start with the mining and processing of some of these critical minerals. And we can do it here, and I say this, in Nevada in a responsible way now. Technology gives us the ability to actually mine the land in a responsible way so that we have the ability to remediate it, to protect the environment, whether it's the ground, the groundwater, or the air, and still partner with all of the stakeholders. Here's what is key, I think, to getting it done. When we are doing something in Nevada, I'm not going to say there's not challenges there, because there are, but the goal here is to bring all the stakeholders to the table, including the tribes in Nevada, and say, here's our potential, here's what we've got, how many of you, how can we work together? So on some of the mining, you will see there's conservation supported, there's some of the tribes supported, there's local government, there's local stakeholders, local ranchers will support it. Are there going to be some that are going to challenge it? Sure, that's always going to be the case. But if you can get more folks that are behind it, that's the intent. I will say the other thing about this is streamlining the permitting. I do think we have to address that issue as well. That's a key part of it. Otherwise, we're just slowing it all down, and it oftentimes will not get done.
And are there any barriers that you've seen to getting some of these projects off the ground this year? Yeah, there's always barriers. Here, let me just say this. I think there's opportunities to work through this and continue to move forward. From my perspective, I don't think we do enough when we're talking about mining, particularly at a federal government level, to talk to individuals who are concerned about protecting the land. I do think what we say to them is, no, I want to protect the land. I think there should be environmental reviews, but not to the extent that they are stopping the projects unless their projects are not appropriate for that piece of land. But there is an opportunity to work together to remediate it, protect it for the future. There's a lot of litigation going on. I get it. I'm an attorney. I respect that. I respect the litigation that is happening, and that's individuals' rights. But I think we can work at a federal level so that we're not adding additional barriers that don't make sense. We can still do the environmental reviews, but they shouldn't take 10 years. Right? We can streamline certain things so it doesn't take too long, but still ensure that we're putting those guardrails, protections in place moving forward. I do think there's opportunities there. And it just requires a lot of conversation. I'm not going to say everybody's going to be amenable to it, but at least you're having those conversations and moving forward. I do not think the federal government itself should be putting barriers in place. We should be trying to figure out how we work with everyone. And what does success look like for 2026?
That's a tough question. Let me say this. I think success for us, everybody in this room, and for the conversation that we're having today, is that we pass Haggerty's and my bill. we actually, as a federal government, come together, administration with Congress, and say, this is our long-term plan. This is our business plan for the future, for the next 10 years. This is where we know we need to go. We're going to put guardrails, we're going to put these parameters, we're going to put this structure in place so that everybody knows. That is success to me. Success is we're all kind of rowing the boat in the same direction at the federal level, and we see that we have to address this issue. If we don't, I don't have to tell all of you, if we do not, we're going to be left behind. It's not just China. We are going to be left behind in this technology race. And it's not just, you all know this, the critical minerals are key, the rare earth minerals are key, but it's AI, it's data centers, it's robotics, it's all of the above. We should be leading. We should be leading in the United States in this space and continue down that path, but we need a strategic plan, a business plan from the federal government to say, yes, that's where we want to go.
It's very hard to execute if we don't have mission clarity on where we're going.
But that's the problem. And that's why I think it has to start with some conversations like we're having here. And for me, working across the aisle was like somebody like Bill Haggerty or Mark Wayne Mullen on rare earth magnets and the production tax credit. I do think working across the aisle, introducing legislation starts that conversation, having hearings on it, getting it passed, getting the administration and the White House to say, yep, we support this, we're going to sign on. That's how you kind of bring some clarity and start moving in that direction.
I guess my final question, when I look back, China's had a 30 or 40-year advantage on a lot of these, right? And they went to a lot of these countries to secure those minerals and bring them back home, which has allowed them to have dominance. Do you think it's realistic in the next 5, 10, 15 years that we may see a world where we're not reliant on China and don't have China weaponizing these minerals in real time?
I do, but we've got to be out there. Like I said, let me just say, Africa alone was eye-opening. China's there. Every project I saw was the Chinese government promoting it, doing it. If we are not there, if we're not engaging, and we're not talking about how we can work together with these countries, including African countries and what they want, then we are going to be left behind. We can't just say, no, ignore it, or treat them like stepchildren, and no, we don't want it, we don't care, because China's going to do it. I can't stress this enough. That's why as soon as I came back from Africa, AGOA was so important. And it's about the critical minerals. It's about the jobs there. It is about their infrastructure. There's so I have to tell you, Nevada had so much in common with these African countries because they want to build it out. They want to do mining. They want to keep the jobs there. They want to grow their economy. They want to be able to invest in this new technology. They want a grid, an electric grid. So we have the opportunity to partner with them, but we have to show up and we have to engage constantly. Because if we don't, we're already being left behind. The projects, the Silk Road projects, all the projects that China is building there now was astounding to me. Absolutely astounding. And I will tell you, these African countries are looking for another partner. They are looking for another partner. But if we don't show up and engage and have these conversations, they're not going to look to us. So yeah, I do think there's potential there, but we've got to take the time to nurture those relationships and really engage.
It's a real opportunity for the U.S. as these countries who have historically had one source of investment and one source of offtake look for new partners. The question is, do we show up? But do we also show up consistently? Because we've also started and stopped a lot.
Yeah, no, we haven't. And that's the challenge you have with the change in administration all the time, right? That was the hope with some of the legislation, AGOA, right? Even when we enter into USMCA, all of these trade agreements, all of these agreements that we have, that the goal is they live beyond the politics of the partisan nature of who sits in the White House, right? Or who controls Congress. That's the intent. And that's the business plan. That's the blueprint for the future. That's why we just cannot give up on it. But those countries, you're absolutely right. They want to partner with the United States. And it's not just the United States. They want the investors. They want the American investors there. But the American investors are not going to go there unless they know there's some guarantee or there's some protections or that the United States is going to be there as a backstop, right? That federal backstop. So we have to be partnering.
Senator Cortez Masto, I thank you so much for your leadership and the way you're thinking about, I think, the systematic architecture that makes sure that this isn't a fleeting priority that passes through 2025, but really ensures that the U.S. can step in with leadership both here and abroad. Please join me in giving her a round of applause.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for what you're doing. So appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.